Welcome to our journey into the dark side of ancient Egyptian mythology. Today, we're going to look at stories about 11 evil Egyptian gods, and each one brings chaos, destruction, and fear. We're going to look into their tales and try to understand what they did in the ancient world. First, let's start with Seth's story, who is the god of chaos and violence. Seth, the god of chaos and violence. Let's start with Seth, the god of chaos and violence. Think of Seth as a powerful storm, wild and destructive, but also important for nature's balance. Seth was strong, and he was linked to chaos, destruction, and storms. In Egyptian myths, Seth did a terrible thing. He killed his own brother, Osiris, because he was jealous and wanted to control Egypt. This led to a long fight with his nephew, Horus, for control of the kingdom. But Seth wasn't all bad. He had a big job of protecting Ra, the sun god, from a giant evil snake called Apophis. Every night, Seth would fight Apophis to make sure the sun could rise again in the morning. Even though Seth was destructive, this shows he also played a crucial role in keeping the world in balance. The ancient Egyptians believed that some chaos was necessary to keep the universe in order. Seth represented this idea. He was dangerous and wild, but also essential for keeping things running smoothly in the grand scheme of things. Apophis, the serpent of chaos and destruction. Next on our list is Apophis, or also called Apep. Think of a huge snake living in the dark. That's Apophis. He was Ra's enemy, the sun god. Every night when Ra went through the underworld, Apophis would try to eat the sun. Because Apophis wanted to make the world dark forever. He caused chaos and tried to destroy what the Egyptians believed in. If Apophis won, the ancient Egyptians believed it would be the end of the world. So they did special rituals so Ra could win the nightly battle. This story shows how the Egyptians saw the world, a constant fight between order and chaos, light and darkness. Each sunrise meant the good guys won again, keeping the world safe for another day. Ammit, the devourer of the dead. Now let's talk about Ammit, the eater of the dead. Unlike other gods, Ammit wasn't worshipped. People feared her. She had the head of a crocodile, the front of a lion, and the back of a hippo. Ammit helped judge souls. So, if a person's heart was heavier than the feather of Ma'at, which stood for truth and justice, Ammit would eat it. This meant the soul was doomed to never getting to rest. A really bad fate for ancient Egyptians. Think of Ammit as the ultimate judge, making sure only good people could enter the afterlife. Her presence made Egyptians remember to live good lives, or they would face a terrible fate after death. Sekhmet, the warrior goddess of healing and war. Moving on, we meet Sekhmet, the warrior goddess of healing and war. Think of a fierce lioness, that's Sekhmet. Ra made her to punish humans who didn't listen to him. Her bloodlust was so extreme that she almost wiped out humanity. So, to stop her, the other gods tricked her into drinking red beer that looked like blood. She became sleepy and calm. Sekhmet was fierce, but she also healed people, protecting against plagues and diseases. She was both a destroyer and a protector, which shows how the Egyptians saw nature as having good and bad sides. Sobek, the crocodile god of the Nile. We continue our journey with Sobek, the crocodile god of the Nile. The ancient Egyptians saw Sobek as a powerful and complex god. Sobek was tightly connected to the Nile River and its ability to support life. Think about the Nile itself. Powerful, unpredictable, and absolutely necessary for life in ancient Egypt. That's how they saw Sobek. People respected and feared Sobek because he was powerful and fierce. They thought he could control the waters of the Nile, which was crucial for their survival. Sobek also protected the pharaohs, making him even more important. Like the crocodiles in the Nile, Sobek was dangerous when angered, but vital for Egypt's well-being. This god shows us that the ancient Egyptians saw their gods as complex beings, just like the forces of nature they represented. Anubis, the protector and guide of the dead. Let's shift our focus to Anubis. He was known as the protector and guide for the dead, and was shown either as a man with a jackal's head or just as a jackal. Anubis was in charge of mummification and guiding souls to the afterlife. He made sure the dead were taken care of properly because he was a big deal in the underworld. He had a key job in the weighing of the heart ceremony. This involved measuring a person's heart against a feather to see if they could enter the afterlife. Anubis was a careful protector, making sure the dead had a safe trip to their final resting place. Babi, the god of baboons and violence. Now, let's jump into the story of Babi, the tough Egyptian god of baboons and violence. Imagine a huge baboon with sharp fangs and wild hair. That's Babi. People knew him for his aggressive nature. He showed the raw power and wildness of the animal world. In Egyptian beliefs about what happens after we die, Babi was really important. He guarded a lake of fire in the underworld. He would eat the souls of bad people, making sure only the good ones could go to the peaceful afterlife. So Babi was the son of Osiris, who was the god of the dead. Because of his strength and wildness, people both feared and respected him. By guarding the underworld, Babi helped keep things in balance, showing that the Egyptians thought of their gods as keeping order between good and evil. Nephthys, the mistress of the house. Next we have Nephthys, whose name means Lady of the House. She was the sister of Isis and Seth. Nephthys was linked to grieving and protection, especially for the dead. She wasn't evil, but she did have a darker side, representing death and night. Nephthys played a key role in funerals. She worked closely with her sister Isis to protect the dead. She was also known as a powerful magician who could heal. Picture Nephthys as a quiet protector during the night, watching over the dead and helping them in the afterlife. Serqet, the scorpion goddess of venom and healing. Let's meet Serqet, the goddess who controlled scorpions and could heal. Think of a powerful goddess. She could control scorpions and other poisonous animals. That's Serqet. Her job was to keep things in balance. She protected people from dangerous bites and stings, but she could also punish wrongdoers with deadly poison. In Egyptian beliefs, Serqet played an important part in the afterlife too. People believed she helped guard the dead and even helped them breathe again. Think of Serqet like a scorpion, potentially dangerous, but also a source of strong medicine and protection. People respected her ability to control the fine line between life and death, making her an important goddess in both everyday life and their thoughts about the afterlife. Shesmu, the god of execution and wine. Next up is Shesmu, the god of execution and wine. Imagine a god who could be both a party host and an executioner. That's Shesmu. He was linked to making wine and perfumes, things that brought joy. But he also had a dark side. People knew him for his violent nature. He crushed the heads of the wicked in his wine press. In the afterlife, he served the righteous with wine but punished the evil. So, in Egyptian beliefs, Shesmu shows us that pleasure and punishment could come from the same source. He really showed both sides of life and death. Am-Heh, the devourer of millions. Last up is Am-Heh, a scary lesser god in the underworld. His name means devourer of millions, and that's exactly what he did. Think of a fierce being with the head of a hunting dog. He lived in a lake of fire. Am-Heh's job was to destroy the souls of the wicked. He kept eating them without stopping. Almost nothing could stop him, which made him even scarier. Only one god, Atum, who created the universe, could hold him back. This shows how powerful and frightening Am-Heh was. For the ancient Egyptians, Am-Heh was like a relentless force of destruction in the underworld. He was a constant reminder of what could happen if they didn't live a good life. Am-Heh stood for the ultimate punishment, complete destruction of the soul, with no afterlife at all. So here are the 11 evil Egyptian gods that made the ancient Egyptians worry. From Seth's chaotic storms to Am-Heh's soul-devouring hunger, these gods show us that ancient Egypt was full of both wonder and fear. These gods weren't just scary stories. They were a part of a belief system that helped ancient Egyptians understand their world. They explained natural events, enforced rules for living, and gave hope for life after death. In ancient Egypt, good and evil weren't always clear-cut. Many of these evil gods also had protective or helpful sides. This shows just how rich and detailed Egyptian mythology was. If you liked learning about these interesting gods, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more mysteries from the ancient world. And maybe leave a comment telling us which evil Egyptian god you found the most interesting or frightening.